Hey guys, welcome back. Today on The Untidy Artist, I will be showing you how I made this beautiful February fairy doll. This is part of my Fairy of the Month series. If you missed the December Fairy of the Month or the January Fairy of the Month, go ahead and check those out on my YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed, please do. You'll be the first to know when I post new videos. And if you're feeling a bit social, go ahead and follow me on Instagram. That's where I post the most recent projects I'm working on and just a little bit more about the Untidy Artist. Let's grab some supplies and get started. So rule number one when picking out flowers is to make sure you don't get flowers that have a lot of glue holding them together. And for whatever reason, I forgot about that rule and bought these two flowers for this fairy, and there is tons of glue holding them together. So I'll kind of show you how I worked around that. These flowers were so pretty, I still really wanted to use them, but I promise you it's easier if there isn't a ton of glue holding them together. So I have a red flower here that we'll be using on the top part of her skirt, and then a pink flower that we'll be using for the underneath layers. I have some different thread. At this point, I didn't know quite what I wanted to use. I have a satiny red, a glittery red, and then two different, like a brighter red and a kind of deeper red. I actually walked past these stickers at Hobby Lobby, and they were the inspiration for this doll. I loved the lighter pink and the deeper red. I feel like I've done a lot of traditional red and white Valentine fairies, and I wanted this one to be a little bit different. And then I also found these sparkly little flowers that I thought would be a fun addition to embellish her skirt. I bought these at Hobby Lobby years ago. I think they still carry them. They're just these little paper roses, and I thought they would be fun to add to her dress. I have my trusty glue gun set on low, and for some reason my glue gun kind of freaked out while I was making this fairy. That was another fun thing I ran into making her. I've got some sharp scissors, and of course my fairy doll. If you're new to making fairies, you'll want to check out my basic fairy doll tutorial. In that, I take a wooden bead, a piece of floral wire, some embroidery floss, and I twist it into this cute little doll. You can find that tutorial listed below in the description. Now you can style her hair however you'd like. I have a bunch of fun, different hairstyle tutorials on my channel. I decided to kind of keep hers basic with this tutorial. So let's get started. The first thing you're going to do is grab the thread to dress your doll. So I decided to use this glittery metallic red, and I'm going to start right at her waist, and I'm going to wrap it up right to underneath her arms and then give her a little pair of shorts. And I loved the contrast of the red with her dark hair. Thought it was just so pretty. And then I'm going to set her aside, and I'm going to grab my flowers and start pulling them apart. And oh my gosh, you guys, this part sucked. They just had so much glue holding them together, and if you're not careful, you can actually rip the petals while you're pulling them apart. So I was able to pull them apart in a few different sections and kind of was able to work with that. But the last middle section, I couldn't even get any of it apart. You can see how that's just kind of a nightmare. Once you have them pulled apart, you're going to want to start layering them together in different ways and kind of figure out how you want her skirt to lay. So I knew I wanted the pink underneath and the red on the top, and I just honestly start layering them together in different ways. I spend quite a bit of time doing this because I want a skirt that's fluffy and pretty and lays nice, and so I do spend a lot of time on this detail. And then you can always hold it up to your doll to see if you like the way it looks. Then you're going to go ahead and grab your scissors and cut an X into the middle of each flower petal. And then you're going to take them, and starting with the top layers, you're going to push them up and around her waist. Then you're going to grab your glue gun, and you're going to start using tiny dabs of glue, and you're going to start gluing her skirt together. So I actually left this part in because I wanted to show you guys how much I move around the petals to make sure that they're falling on top of each other nicely. I don't want all of the petals sitting right on top of each other. I want them to alternate back and forth to give me a really pretty full skirt. And once I have them kind of arranged, I start using tiny dabs of glue and just slowly putting her dress together. So more arranging, more tiny dabs of glue. I do that in the front and in the back. And this is what we have so far. I loved the pink layer underneath. I thought it just looked really pretty with the deep color of red. So then I decided to give her a pair of gloves. So I took the brighter color of the red thread, and I'm going to start at the end of each of her hands and wrap up all the way to where her elbows would be on both sides to give her a sassy pair of red gloves. And then I went ahead and grabbed the darker color of red, and honestly, there's not really a lot of difference between these two colors, but I liked the pop of red on her gloves and the darker for her boots. And so I did the same technique. I started at the base of her foot and wrapped up to give her some boots. Now I'm going to style my doll's hair. Now I just decided to give her a basic hairstyle where I loop her hair up and around and glue it underneath. You will find step-by-step detailed instructions for that part in that basic fairy doll tutorial. And then I decided to kind of sweep it over to the side and give her a side ponytail. So I just took that same metallic red thread, I'm going to take a piece of it and wrap it around her hair. And just tie it in a couple double knots so it stays nice and secure. Then go ahead and trim off the ends. I wasn't sure if I was going to leave a piece of the metallic thread dangling down from her ponytail, so I kind of just trimmed a little bit of it off, and then I set her aside and grabbed my little roses. Now these actually untwisted apart so you could have single roses, and I'm going to take 3 of them and I'm going to kind of twist those together to give me 3 roses that are all attached right next to each other. So I just twisted them together. And then I wasn't sure if I wanted to put them in her hair or by her waist. And I ended up loving how they looked right around the base of her dress. So I liked too that you've got the wires so you can kind of wrap them around. So I'm going to grab a dab of glue from my glue gun and just glue that right around her waist. And then I just wrapped the rest of the wire around the back of her dress. And I'm going to put another tiny dab of glue and secure that in the back. And then ultimately you'd want to grab some wire cutters and trim that. I'm naughty. I grabbed an old pair of scissors. Never ever use good scissors, and I just trimmed the end of that off. And then I did decide to trim off the rest of that thread from her ponytail. Then set her aside, and this is the fun part. I dumped out all the flowers, pulled out the colors I kind of liked. I set down the stickers and I just start playing around and laying them on her dress in different ways, kind of trying to decide what I want. And so you can see, I just spent some time kind of experimenting. I decided that I wanted the hearts at the end of each petal at the bottom of her dress, and then I decided to add some little flowers to that. So once you have an idea of what you want, you can grab your glue gun and actually glue all of those different elements down on her dress. So I started with the hearts and I glued all of those down, and then I went back and I glued down all of the little flowers. And I just did that all the way around her dress. Work slowly, use tiny dabs of glue, and you can see how much the glue shows up on the red petals. I made a big mess in the back of her dress, and I decided to just cover it up with flowers and a heart. So I put a flower in the back right at the base of her dress, and then I grabbed a few of the flowers, and I actually loved how this looked in the back of her dress. And I glued 3 flowers down on each side, kind of cascading down from the back of her dress. And this is how it ended up turning out, and I loved those pretty flowers at the back. Last but not least, we're going to take one little pink flower and we're going to put it in her hair to just give us a little bit of sparkle in her hair. So I just, once again, tiny dab of glue. I'm taking that little flower and just placing it right over her ponytail, securing that down. And then I did run upstairs and grab my hairdryer, and I blasted all of the glue that was still showing to kind of melt it so you wouldn't notice it as much. Because like I said, that red the glue just shows up on red for some reason a lot. So the hairdryer is a good trick for that. And that's it, guys. You're all set. This is the February Fairy of the Month. I love how she turned out. I think she is very elegant, and I loved the dramatic difference between her dark hair and the red dress and a little bit of glitter. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're enjoying the Fairy of the Month series. I'm excited for March, and I'm excited for you guys to check out some of my other tutorials. So if you're new to making fairy dolls, I have tons of fairy dolls on my YouTube channel, as well as bath bombs and soap and other crafty goodness. So if you're not following me, please do. Please follow me on Instagram. It's where you'll find out the newest things I'm working on. And I appreciate your support so much, you guys. Thanks. We'll see you next time.